All right, I think it's just about time for us to get started. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Yes. Can you see me? Yes. Can you see the things on the screen? Yes. All right, so those of you who have been here before, or perhaps if you read the program closely, you'll see I've actually added a few words to this. I am going into slightly different, newer, more exciting and scarier territory as part of this presentation, so I hope that it will be helpful to all of you. So my name is Lauren. I go by Lauren the Flute. As far as I can tell, I'm not actually a flute. I think I'm a human, but if that changes, I'll let you know. Just so you know, I'm a socially awkward extrovert, which means that I think socially awkward introverts say, oh, that would be stupid, I shouldn't say it. I'm like, oh, that was stupid, I shouldn't have said it. So we're all awkward in our own way, and they're all completely legitimate ways of feeling, but that's why I'm the one up here talking to you, but I also kind of get where you're coming from. If you're here identifying as being awkward or unsure or anything like that. So I talk a lot. I have a question mark next to the talks too much, because that's a particularly negative way of talking about myself, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until I edited my slides. So I have anxiety, like many of us. I have in the past had extremely low self-esteem. It's still a struggle, to be perfectly honest. I was upstairs crying in my room earlier today because of how I was feeling about whether I was going to be able to do a good enough job for you. So I understand what that's like. I do talk to strangers constantly. If you see me in an elevator, I'll probably start asking you, like, what did you have for lunch? What are you doing at MAGFest? How are things going? Hi, 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 hi. I'm kind of like, hi, I'm Daisy. Hi, I'm Daisy. Hi, I'm Lauren. So this is my third year running this panel. For those of you, I think, who had said you'd been here before, thank you so much for coming back. There is new material. For those of you who've never been here before, I'm going to cover the same stuff that I've always covered to try to give you the things that I think are important to help you. So in the time that I've been running this panel, I have learned a lot from watching what the people in your chairs have done, and it's really inspired me, honestly, to make some major changes in my own life, taking risks, trying new things. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't, but it was all part of my life and all part of the learning experience. And it's because I was inspired by what people who have said, I am shy, I am anxious, are able to do. So let's talk a little bit about what I've learned from watching people. So I find that there are generally three reasons why people have a challenging time trying to talk to somebody. Either they don't care, they don't want to, which I assume that since you're all here, you have at least some interest in talking to people. They don't know what to say or how to start the conversation. This is the Toolbox part of tonight's presentation, and hopefully it will be helpful. But this next one is the big one. And they are afraid of making a mistake. They are afraid of messing something up. And this is really important because it goes down to our fundamental understanding of ourselves as people. Why is it that we are so scared of doing the wrong thing? That it cripples us from doing this thing that we want to do. We want to make friends. We want to try new things. We want to have conversations. We see that person who has like these super easy conversations. We're like, man, I wish that was me. But we're afraid that if we try to be that person, we're going to fail. And so we don't try. So where does that come from? I think largely that comes from confidence and self-esteem, and the fact that a lot of us struggle with that. And again, like I've said, this is something that is personally challenging for me too. So I'm not a professional, so I can't help you overcome that sort of thing, but I can give you a few tips that have helped me over the years, which I think is a good way of laying a foundation so that then when we give you the toolbox of how to make new friends and how to talk to people, you've kind of got an idea of how to build something secure and a good foundation for those skills. And the heart of confidence is loving yourself, which, okay, we're going to get kind of mushy here. If you know me at all, you know I'm kind of like a mushy, feels like I've got my heart on my sleeve, bleeding constantly sort of person. So we're going to talk about self-esteem, which is, I know, a little bit of a buzzword, but all it means is caring about yourself and valuing yourself and loving yourself. And so for some of you, maybe this seems obvious. And for some of you guys, maybe this sounds impossible. And I want to address that. I want to call that out and to reassure you guys that you can love yourself and you can have the confidence to talk to strangers, but also that foundational understanding of yourself. Because it is really important. It has to do with who you are and thinking that you deserve to be happy and you deserve to make friends and you deserve to have a chance, and you do. Not just because other people value you, although I think other people do, but also, and this is my soapbox, just like by virtue of being you, if you have low self-esteem, I don't know what you think is so terrible about yourself that you don't deserve the chance that other people do, but I think you're wrong and I think you do deserve it. So if you want to hear somebody say that they believe in you, like I do. I believe that every single person in this room deserves to be happy. And I hope that that gives you at least something. So some little bits of advice. And like I said, this is a struggle that I'm very personally familiar with. These are workshops that I have been in or guided workbooks that I've taken part of have put together kind of like this is how to build up self-esteem. And I know that this is not exactly the point of the panel, but I really do stress that this is where the confidence comes from. When I pointed out, oh, I talk too much. No, I talk a lot. Oh, I'm too short. Oh, I'm 5'11". Oh, I'm a total disorganized mess. I have a hard time organizing. If you can hear the difference there in how you talk about yourself. One of them is saying, like, I am bad. I did a bad thing. And one is just saying, this is a thing about me. It's not a value judgment. As much as possible, try to avoid judging yourself. Try to avoid saying, I'm bad at talking to people. Maybe I don't know how to talk to people. I don't have a lot of experience. I'm not sure where to start. None of those put the blame on you. And that's really important because this sort of thing can be worked on and improved. And if you say fundamentally, I'm bad at this, then it sounds like there's no chance that you have to get better, and that's simply not how it is. So as much as possible, I encourage you to try to have that more positive way of looking at it. And then, again, this is a very personal thing, but the idea of having one thing that you can cling to, even when you're feeling really self-conscious, to say, well, there is one thing that I love about myself, one thing that is good, and one thing that other people will see in me. For me, it's that whether I succeed or not, I want to help other people. And so no matter like how far into the dark pit of uncertainty I am, I can be like, no, I have this one thing. I don't know what yours is. It may take you a while to find it, but it can help. And then the third step here, which is forgiving yourself if you don't succeed, about that, this is the thing that I've most learned about running the panel, and this is actually why I've decided to put this little self-esteem boosting conversation at the beginning before we get to the toolbox. So I've done this panel, and I've had people sit down in these chairs and say, I am here because I need to work on my anxiety. I am here because I need to work on talking to people. But the moment I say it's okay to make a mistake, it's okay to not know what you're doing, I have to ask them to stop talking. We need to get on with the panel, because suddenly they can do what they thought they couldn't do, because they gave themselves permission for it to be imperfect. And in that permission, they were able to do the thing that they thought they couldn't do. Failure doesn't mean that you failed. Like, if you try something and it doesn't work, it means you tried it, and you should be proud of yourself for that. I'm a writer, and if any of you guys write short stories or novels or anything and you try to get them published, you get a lot of rejection along the way. But I still have the first rejection letter I received because it didn't mean that my story had been rejected. It meant that I'd sent it off. And if you have a conversation with somebody and it doesn't go well, it doesn't go the way you want it to, instead of thinking, I did it terribly, I did a bad job, this is terrible, I shouldn't talk to people. I don't know if you guys have the hamster wheel of anxiety in your head, but for me, that's a pretty big issue. No, you tried something, you dust yourself off, you have experience. And there's gonna be a lot of RPG comparisons, because as you can probably tell, I like Final Fantasy, I like Undertale, so we'll see some pictures from those earlier. But I do really wanna stress that if something doesn't go as well as you hoped it would, it's okay, you'll have other chances, and try as much as you can to remember that. So you may think you can't do this, but I promise you, I have seen it from people who thought they couldn't do it. You can. So this is your official permission certificate. Take this into your heart. If I could give you a golden ticket, each of you, for this, go out there, make mistakes, try something, succeed, fail, it doesn't matter. The point is you're doing it. So now we're getting to the toolbox. You're in the tutorial level, which means you can't die. At least I hope not. If anyone dies on this panel, please just don't. I guess I'm the white mage. I guess it's my job to bring you back. But has anyone here played Final Fantasy VI? Okay, I don't know if you remember the beginner's house. The concept of the beginner's house is you go around and there's a bunch of dudes with funny hats who tell you, oh, this isn't what an item is. This is a treasure chest. This is a save point. And you can't die in the combat there. And it's a great way to kind of learn what you're doing. And I want to encourage you guys to think about this panel as the beginner's room. This is the tutorial section, and you are not going to die. If you feel like you might die, call me over. I will heal you. Do not stay away from the summoner. Sorry. Voice acting, Final Fantasy X. So yes, building your toolbox. If you've been here before, this might seem familiar, but this is still important, and I stand by it. So here's the first lesson that I have. Who here likes talking on the telephone? Oh, hey! Who here hates talking on the telephone? Yes, I am with you guys. But it is unfortunately a necessity of life. And so my parents, in their well-meaning, like my childhood, they decided they were going to encourage me to talk on the telephone by forcing me to order the pizza, which is a pretty good bribe. So I was like, all right, I want the pizza, so I can't say no, because then I don't get the pizza. So I require you to tell me, what are they going to ask, and how am I going to respond? And I had a Post-it note. And I wrote down, okay, they're going to ask this, I'm going to reply this. They're going to ask this, I'm going to reply that. And I stuck that next to the phone. And I kept that on the phone every week when it was my turn to call for pizza. And sometimes people went off the script, and that was pretty scary. But eventually you kind of learn, okay, there's other things I can scribble on my Post-it note. And eventually you don't need the Post-it note anymore. But as much as I was frustrated when my parents made that request, it really was a very helpful thing, because it taught me that if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what to expect, you can learn, you can prepare, and you can go into it. So the idea of scripting a conversation in advance, I mean, we're not programmed characters in a video game, but you can kind of have a general idea of what to expect or what to do. And I encourage you, even if it feels kind of cheesy, try giving it, like give it a try, see what happens. Because talking to people is a skill. Skills increase with experience. This is how you gain levels. You don't gain levels by sitting around at home. You have to go and have the adventure and fight the monsters and buy the new sword and fight the harder monsters and hopefully not die. And I really think that talking to people, being comfortable with people, is something you can consciously work on. And MAGFest is the perfect place to do so. Why? Because many of us, if we're not in the room, we may be the sort of people who could perhaps benefit from this. Or like the people that you talk to out there, maybe they have anxiety, maybe their friend has anxiety. There's a lot of neurodiversity here. So people are going to understand where you're coming from. They're not going to judge you. They're not going to hate you. They're not going to say whatever it is that the hamster wheel in your head is saying to try to keep you from taking that chance. This is a safe place. And also, my guess is most of you play video games. Does anyone not? Okay, we've got one brave individual. Thank you, I salute you. And I would love to ask you about what you're doing here and learn about your experience. But for the rest of you, you notice how many times I've asked you, who's played this game, who's played that game? I could then ask you more about that. But we've got that in common. And that is a nice kind of way to skip ahead. If you're out in public, you might not know, okay, this person is going to have something in common with me. I don't know. But here, somebody, somewhere, is going to love your favorite game, no matter how obscure it is. So you are in a perfect place to try these things out. So how do we do that? Normally, I'm dressed as Toriel today, and this is a little bit more to theme. But we have Azrael, so... Oh, no, we had Azrael. Don't be shy, my friend. So the first step, and this is getting into the beginning of the interactive part of the panel. I want you to turn to somebody near you who you haven't talked to before, so don't go talking to the person you came here to. And I want you to just say hello. Come on. All right. I want to draw your attention to the fact that several of you are still talking. That's like the most exciting and inspiring thing to me. See, they're still talking. That's okay, I know him. Ampy. I can give him slight ribbing because we're friends. But yeah, so as you can see, that's the first step. And did anyone die? Is anyone dead? Does anyone need life too? Okay, I'll cast it on you guys. But the rest of you, you're fine. That's the step one. Congratulations. If that was hard, and I'm making light of it, I'm joking around, but honestly, for some people, and probably for some of you, that's really hard. But you know that the person next to you is also supposed to say hi to you, so you don't have to worry about it. So there you go. Again, tutorial level, we start easier. So now what do we do? How do we carry on that conversation once we've said hello? Okay, I'm really proud of myself because this isn't a JRPG. This is an American RPG. I'm branching out. So if you've played a BioWare game, how do you continue BioWare conversations? By asking questions. The same thing works in real life. Now, you're probably not going to be asking questions about aliens trying to take over the world, although you could. And you probably don't want to choose the kicking puppies answer. Sorry, BioWare. I don't think we all want to be, I think we'd rather be paragons in real life. Maybe I'm wrong. But it is actually really important. As I'm asking you, who's played this game? What do you think of this? I could ask, here's somebody wearing an Undertale costume. I can say, hey, you like Undertale? Is Sans your favorite character? Yes. And see, that's a conversation that we can have. And again, one of the advantages of being at MAGFest is that people they wear their nerd pride. They let you know what they're into. And so you've kind of got an advantage. Like, I could be like, okay, I'm a little shy. That person looks like they like Undertale. What should I ask them? Again, you can prepare for the conversation, and you can ask the question, and then next thing you know, perhaps we wind up being good friends because it turns out that we love the same thing. But you won't know until you've asked. When you talk to somebody and you ask a question and they give you an answer, there might be a follow-up question. And if you think about things in terms of questions, and you try to pay attention to and care about the person you're talking to, there will generally be something else that comes to mind. A little tip here, and this kind of goes into what I was on my soapbox about staying positive and having self-esteem. I completely understand the cycle as you're talking to somebody really, really cool, and you're like, oh, but they're really cool, and I'm not really cool, and I don't know what to do or what to say. Oh, no. And you can kind of see you sink down, and then they're like, oh, no, what's wrong with you? And they sink down. Instead, take that negativity, stop it, and force yourself to say something positive. And if it's too hard to say something positive that has to do with you, which usually is the case, say something positive about them. I love your hat. I love your smile. I'm so glad you're here. Something like that, genuine if you can. I love your costume. You've been really easy to talk to. They're going to feel good. We like being complimented, just like we like talking about ourselves. So if you compliment the person genuinely, if you're kind and positive and friendly and supportive, instead of making yourself feel a little bit awkward because you don't feel good about yourself and then they kind of cycle down into that with you, everybody feels better because there's just this positivity in the conversation. But maybe don't go as far as Papyrus. Don't perhaps hoot about how great you are. Maybe. So another thing that people worry about a lot, and this is something that holds you back, and this also has to do with giving yourself permission. You think you have to say the exact right thing. You have to phrase it exactly right, or they're not going to understand you, they're not going to like you, this conversation is meaningless and terrible and horrible, and you should maybe lay on your bed in your room and stare at the clock. Don't do that. It's okay to say something and realize that that wasn't exactly the way you intended it. It's amazing what a difference an apology can make if you do hurt somebody, and you probably won't. The vast majority of times that we worry about the effect we're going to have on people and what we say, it's not actually as bad as we think. Our hamster wheel mind is telling us what it tells us, but it's not that fear is not actually grounded in reality. So just try it. As much as possible, give yourself permission. And on that note, you might feel kind of silly talking to yourself in the mirror. Hi, Lauren. How are you? But that silliness maybe breaks the ice a little bit. And seriously, the more you practice this, the more you try, the more you give yourself chances to do the thing that is hard and scary. Even very small, low-level encounters, grinding, will make a huge difference. So don't be afraid to script conversations in advance. Don't be afraid to look in the mirror and try things out. Put the words in your mouth, put them out into space, practice saying them. And it may feel weird at first, but that practice is going to make it easier. When you actually find the person that you want to talk to, you have some idea of how to talk to them and what to say. And again, when you're talking to somebody, like I said, asking questions is a great way. People love talking about themselves. If you can get someone just launched talking about themselves, they're going to go home and be like, that was the best conversation ever. They won't know that it's because they talked about themselves the whole time. They'll just know they were happy. And obviously, a good conversation should have some back and forth flow, but it is really going to help you make an easier connection with somebody. And if you're genuinely interested in them, you want to talk to them, there must be something you want to know, so get to know them. So when you ask questions and you're listening closely, don't be listening for the next time to talk about yourself. Oh, me, which is easy to do because it's scary to ask things and talk about things we don't know. And generally speaking, we know ourselves. So that's kind of like the safe zone to go back to. Do talk about yourself, but make sure that you're also paying attention to the other person and you value their input. They might also turn those questions around and ask you. So if you ask a question, don't be surprised if you get asked the same thing in response. It's totally fine if the answer is, actually, no, I haven't played that game, I just hear people talk about it. That's totally fine. Admitting you don't know something, admitting that you just want to know more about it, that's completely fine. I really think that honesty, I don't know what that was, but that was a really awesome phone ringtone. I really do think being direct and open, I mean, I hope it's less scary than worrying about having like the secret handshake of good conversation, just trying it instead. I think that might be better, sorry. Okay, so here are some specific questions that I've been asked over the years, people wondering, how do I deal with particular scenarios? So my personal weakness is ending conversations. I feel like we are all at different points in having conversation. Maybe some of us feel like we're really good at having the conversations once they've started, but it's that first contact that we're really shy and we have a really hard time with. Some of us can say hi and don't know what to do beyond that. Some of us can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but then when you have to go, what do? I don't know. So that's something that I've been working on personally. For me, I find, again, directness is really powerful, especially in a place like MAGFest, tutorial level. You can even just say, you know, I don't know how to end conversations very well, but I have to go. It's been nice talking to you. Bye. You'll probably make the other person smile. Everybody likes smiling, and you end the conversation on a good note. You might feel a little like, oh gosh, that's a silly thing to say, but I mean, it doesn't hurt anybody to be that honest. Or again, I have to go do this. I have to do that. Or just like, I've got to go. It's been nice talking to you, and if you really like the person, you can say, I'd love to talk to you again sometime in the future. Maybe I'll see you at a panel, maybe I'll hear you at a concert. So it's okay to be direct and simple. So how do you know if somebody isn't comfortable and you should let the conversation go? This can be tricky, especially when we're starting to talk about neurodiversity and people reading body signals differently. This is an entire field of expertise out there, but in general, if someone is physically backing away, looking at their phone, giving one word, that's probably a sign that the conversation is not working for them the way it is for you. If you give them a couple of chances like, oh, you know, I should go, and they're like, oh, but I want to talk to you later, then maybe they're just busy, maybe their friend's cat is sick and that's why they're on the phone. But it is good to try to keep in mind the other person's comfort. Talking to non-nerds, I've been asked this. Surely you do things that aren't just being a nerd. Surely you do other things besides playing video games. Sometimes, a little bit, maybe. Do you take walks? Do you read books? Do you like dogs? No, none of those things. Okay, well, I guessed poorly, but I imagine that there are things, or it could be this person is really interesting, has all sorts of life experiences I know nothing about because I have never talked to a dog in my life, because I don't like dogs. So you ask them about those things that you don't know. Again, questions are a great way of connecting with people. So you can say, like, you know, I only have a television at home to play video games, so I don't really watch television. But you seem to be really into television. What's your favorite show? Why do you like it? I'm learning about you, even if this is something that I don't have in common with you. It's not as different as you think. I think that being at a place like MAGFest is kind of like a tutorial level, like I said, because you can kind of guarantee that people will have that in common with you. So if you want to stick to talking to people that you know you have something in common with while you build up experience, there is no shame in that. But I do think that you can probably talk to other people with the same skills better than you think you can. So getting comfortable in person with people you've only known online, that is something that I was asked actually this weekend. In this case, a lot of us here probably have online friends that we're meeting up with for the first time at MAGFest, and it can be kind of tricky to make that transition. I think it can be good to try to remember that it's okay for it to be a bit awkward, and that eventually as you talk through the same kind of conversations that you have had online with this person face to face, the fact that they're no longer just a bunch of letters on a screen will stop being quite so weird, and it will become more comfortable with time. Going from acquaintances to friends, I always encourage people to be direct. You don't need to worry about playing mind games. There's no secret handshake to having a perfect conversation. And you can't make somebody want to be friends with you. And it's okay if you want to be friends with them and they don't. Well, you have other opportunities. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you'll never make friends. So I think it's valuable to say, okay, I think you're really cool. I would love to hang out sometime. If you're worried they might think that you're hitting on them, which can be a concern, I know, you can say, I'm not hitting on you, I think you're really cool. It actually works pretty well. If you're still worried, or if you're not sure kind of about making that transition, you can put, suggest like, my friends and I go see a movie, my friends and I do this. Would you be interested in a group activity? Takes a lot of this pressure off. I've also been asked about activities that don't involve drinking. I don't drink and I have friends, so I sure hope there are things that can be done. Now I know with this first one, sometimes things like rock band and DDR can be a little bit intimidating, and some people like to have like that little bit of icebreaker. If that is you, stick to games that you're not going to feel uncomfortable playing. There are a lot of activities around your town. There's a lot of things you can do. What are you interested in? What can you do together? Do you like to cook? Can you cook meals together? There are a lot of things out there. I know that we love to party here at MAGFest. I have seen the elevator parties. I have heard the Colossus roar. But if that's not your scene or you want to add to it, there are methods. So here we're going to get into the interactive component here. I'm not giving you a bingo card because the point here is not actually to have a checklist and say, I found them all. We are not playing Pokemon. The point here is to have conversations. So I'm going to turn you guys loose for a little while, and I'm going to have you try to find the people here who fit these qualities. The great thing is if you say, are you somebody who makes music? And they're like, no, but I really love listening to it. Conversation. You both win. So if you don't mind standing up, taking a look around, and this is part of why I encouraged you to not be too far apart. Start talking to each other. Who's standing around? I see you guys. You can turn and look at the person next to you and ask them one of the random questions that you see on here. Do you do this? Do you do that? And again, don't be shy, don't be scared. I'm giving you orders of what to do. It's not your fault. So I want to interject for just a moment. And I want to let you get back to this. I see some people who have to go, and before you go, there are goodies for you to pick up. I want you to know, oh no, hold on. Okay, pretend you didn't see behind the scenes. If you want to come up here and pick up one of these, I'll tell you what these are, but please continue talking amongst yourselves. So the point of these things that I'm giving you guys is if you wear these on your badges for the rest of MAGFest, anybody who sees them will know, A, you're at the panel, so they are on the tutorial mission with you, so you can practice talking to them in a safe space, and B, it gives you an easy way of identifying what they might like. And if you don't remember, even better, what does yellow mean? Oh, Pokemon! Conversation. Also, if you're enjoying the talking to people thing and you want to do something a little more advanced, I have another panel coming up at 10 o'clock in the arena called Speed Friending, where we'll be making it easier for you to talk to people, more one-on-one and in groups. So mingle and join us. Hi.
Alex, I'm Alex, the tuba player at MAGFest.
Huh?
I'm Alex, the tuba player at MAGFest.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
Nice to see you. I'm all right. I think I did this panel badly, but that's okay.
No, you did great.
As long as people have the thing.
I think people are having fun, and I'm sure it's helping out a lot of people.
I hope so.
I appreciate you hosting this. I'm sure a lot of people appreciate it as well.
I hope so. I'm sorry, I got a half order. I tried ordering more and something got wrong, so. All right, my friends, I'm afraid it is time for us to leave the room so that the next people can come in. If you want to continue these conversations, I love that. If you want to continue more conversations, please come to Speed Friending in the arena at 10 p.m. Thank you all. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the fact that you're still talking, even though you said it was hard. Bye.